We just had another massive win for RLUSD, and in this video, I want to talk about what just happened and what this means for XRP. A lot of people are seeing this news and saying, with all this news about RLUSD, is Ripple just kicking XRP to the curb? Well, I'm here to tell you, the use case for XRP just changed massively, and in this video, I want to break down that change and whether or not it's good for the price. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do help me out so much. Also, if you have any good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange Uphold down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So as I said in the intro, we just got some big news for RLUSD, and it's kind of unfortunate because a lot of people are seeing this news and thinking Ripple's abandoning XRP. I want to link it all up for you guys and really let you know why that is the furthest thing from the truth. But the big news for RLUSD is it looks like Ripple just got RLUSD approved in Dubai, and now Ripple is the only digital asset company approved in the regular traditional financial system to operate in the region. This is so important, and one of the biggest things I've been trying to allude to on this channel for a very long time. There's going to be a lot of really cool and very important innovation in the cryptocurrency sector. And tomorrow I can go build one of the best protocols that's ever existed, and it could be 10 times faster and 10 times more customizable than the XRP Ledger. But there's a lot of reasons why I'm not going to beat Ripple. And at the end of the day, the biggest reason I'm not going to beat Ripple is because no one knows about my chain. There's no liquidity on my chain. No one's using my chain. I'm not working with any regulators. I'm not working with any financial institutions. I don't have any network effect for the actual chain that I could theoretically go create tomorrow. And this is one of the biggest things that people miss out on. People keep on seeing these new projects with all these big promises, but fail to understand that in order for these new applications, in order for these new rails to be used, there has to be people willing to use them. And the XRP Ledger has something extremely important that no one else has. And that's a track record and a team that is delivering on the overall success of the blockchain. Since 2013, Ripple has been meeting with people like the Federal Reserve, people like the Bank of England, many large financial institutions all around the world. In fact, Ripple already has connections with close to 23 central banks. I could probably spend the next 15 years trying to get a conversation with a central bank. It's probably never going to happen. Ripple's already doing it, and they've been doing it for a very long time. One of the most important and underrated things that people fail to look at when they look at these blockchain networks is a network effect. The network is only as valuable as the people using it. And if you don't have anyone valuable using a network, the network's not going to be valuable. One of the most important things about Ripple is their connections. Ripple obviously is humming along in Dubai, a $400 billion economy. And as Austin King talks about right here, this is just the start. Likely, the next big domino to fall is going to be Japan, which is a $4 trillion economy. These are all economies that Ripple has extremely deep roots with, and they are blockchain-leaning financial hubs that are going to be looking to upgrade their current systems. What we're watching right now is domination from institutions with Ripple. Ripple is making strides with these financial institutions because they are delivering products that make sense. While the rest of the cryptocurrency industry was focused on meme coins and NFTs and all these things that institutions could care less about, Ripple was focused on building applications into the XRP Ledger that were going to be useful to the very financial institutions they knew were going to be using the technology. Things like KYC, things like being able to limit certain people from interacting with transactions, things like clawback. Things that financial institutions have been talking about since the early days that Ripple has been listening to. And because Ripple has actually made the steps to implement these things, and because Ripple has been working with these financial institutions to understand what they need to see in a blockchain, they have been able to meet the demand. And that's why as we continue to see regulations rolled out, Ripple continues to be the only one getting approved in all of these jurisdictions. They're the only ones who have been working with these financial institutions and know what they need. And therefore, Ripple is creating a network effect for the XRP Ledger with the biggest money on earth. Everyone else was focused on retail, but retail really doesn't make up anything in comparison to the total world velocity and liquidity that comes from the movement of value. Ripple understands that single financial institutions move more than most of all of retail combined. And if they can build blockchain products that are going to be usable and applicable to the needs of these financial institutions, they are going to be in a position where they are going to have the deepest network effect for the people who matter. This is one of the things I always talk about with the XRP Ledger. The XRP Ledger is being positioned next to the biggest money in the entire world. These large financial institutions are going to need the XRP Ledger for the same reason we love the XRP Ledger. It's fast and efficient. Ripple stablecoin is simply a gateway into this brand new economy, this brand new tokenized economy. Fiat currency is clearly one of the most important and one of the most highly desired things to be tokenized. That's why we see stablecoins taking off so much. And I think a lot of people lose sight of the bigger picture here. The XRP Ledger was made for tokenization. The XRP Ledger was made to be a central piece of liquidity to a brand new tokenized financial system. Tokenized assets was the first thing built into the XRP Ledger. The XRP Ledger was the first decentralized cryptocurrency network to support tokenization. RLUSD and these stablecoins are tokenization of fiat currency. Without the tokenization of these different asset classes, XRP could never live up to its true potential. I know for a long time, a lot of people looked at XRP as a payments token, a way to pay people, a way to move value. It's really not what XRP was meant for. People just used XRP for that utility because we were waiting for issued assets to come to the network. But really, XRP is liquidity. XRP is a decentralized source of liquidity that can essentially make any asset on the XRP Ledger network liquid to one another. This is extremely powerful and honestly way more powerful than simple payment transactions. Payment transactions have a buy and a sell. You move assets from one counterparty to another, you buy XRP, sell XRP, and those transactions essentially net out to nothing. Liquidity is where all the money is. Liquidity essentially needs to match the payment volume going on the XRP Ledger, match the settlement volume. These volumes in the current financial systems are quadrillions of dollars annually, and the XRP Ledger is the liquidity to make this all work in that system. Liquidity is the deep piece of utility that the financial system has been lacking for a very long time, and XRP solves this in a very important way. One of the most important parts about understanding liquidity is there's only a set amount of XRP tokens out there. And therefore, if you want to get more liquidity on the XRP Ledger, you just need a higher priced XRP. The higher priced XRP is, the more liquidity you have. And I guarantee you, the more financial institutions we have using the XRP Ledger for its full intended use case of settling value, the more liquidity they're going to need. Issued assets, things like RLUSD, things like bank stablecoins, all of these things just add to the utility of XRP because all of these things need liquidity and they're all going to need to interact with the native asset on the XRP Ledger. It's such a simple picture, but this is really where the XRP Ledger stands as this neutral, reserve, counterparty-less asset connecting all the financial institutions coming on board to the new upgraded tokenized economy. Standard Chartered is not going to want to use Bank of America stablecoin. They're probably not going to want to use Ripple stablecoin. Visa is probably going to want to have their own stablecoin. All these different financial institutions, there's no reason for them to utilize another company's stablecoin. They're just going to use a stablecoin that is native to them. But that stablecoin is not going to run on its own independent rails. It has to run on rails already created. XRP and the XRP Ledger are the rails to make these stablecoins work. And that was the entire design purpose of the XRP Ledger, as neutral liquidity for all these different issued assets being issued by all these different financial institutions. Ripple saw this vision in the early days. That's why they built tokenization into the XRP Ledger. Brad Garlinghouse has a famous quote. He said, they're not just going to get rid of fiat currency. It's not just going to get replaced by XRP. Brad Garlinghouse knew governments were never going to do this. And therefore, Ripple took the approach that XRP needs to be a bridge liquidity between all these issued assets. All these other chains, all these other ecosystems, they all thought that their native token was going to replace currency, that people were going to go to the store and buy things with Bitcoin. Ripple understood from the early days this was never how it was going to work. Fiat currency is here to stay, and tokenization of fiat currency is only making fiat currency stronger. XRP is what makes the fiat currency work in this new decentralized financial system. It's what makes the new financial system better than the old one. And that's why XRP is so powerful. Ripple had the right vision from the start, and I can't stress that enough. Everyone else got it wrong. It's not that we're going to be going to the store and buying things with a native volatile cryptocurrency assets. It's not how it's going to work. How it's going to work is you are going to get all the legacy financial institutions to issue assets on these new blockchain solutions, and XRP will sit as the liquidity between all of it. Ripple saw this from the very, very early days. That's why they built tokenization directly into the XRP ledger. And once they did that, what's the next most obvious thing? To buddy up with the financial institutions that have all the value to tokenize. Ripple is working with close to 500 banks as of 2018. Who knows how many they're working with now? All of these financial institutions have trillions of dollars to tokenize. And we can all agree that the current system is outdated. And almost no blockchain in the top 10 is even fit to handle a lot of this tokenization. Bitcoin can't do it, Ethereum can't do it, and next up you have XRP, and Ripple just so happens to be working with all the financial institutions already that hold all this value. What you need to understand is Ripple built the XRP ledger for tokenization. RLUSD, tokenized fiat currencies, tokenized bonds, all these things play into the vision of how the XRP ledger is going to succeed. Ripple knew this from the start. And therefore, anyone telling you that RLUSD getting approved in these places is going to replace XRP doesn't understand that this is literally Ripple's vision playing out right in front of them. The XRP ledger was never meant to be an XRP payment from here to here. XRP was made to sit in the middle and transform different forms of value from one another through this new decentralized neutral liquidity, making it so that every single asset in the entire financial system is liquid to one another without a single counterparty stepping in the middle. These are things that are mind-blowing and transformational to the entire financial system as we know it. Maybe the best part, it's been Ripple's vision from the early days. It just so happens to be playing out, and most people fully haven't even wrapped their head around how this system is going to work. Guys, those of you who understand this video are going to be fully aware that Ripple has never been in a better position for where this financial system is headed, and in my opinion, situated perfectly for the biggest transformation of value, the biggest transfer of value that we have ever seen in human history. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update, and for now, Mickle out.